says some people want to get rid of all government, abolish government entirely, and they want to abolish the Federal Reserve. And then they cut to Rand Paul saying, in the Fed, chanting it, knowing that one sentence before he said, some of these people want to get rid of all government. Then he says, like the Federal Reserve, as if the Federal Reserve is government. Then they cut to Rand Paul saying, in the Fed. See, so that's a double lie. They're telling you the Federal Reserve is government and is legitimate, and that Rand Paul wants to abolish all government, and that to end the Fed means to abolish all government. But in a sick little lawyer way, they love having what they say be the truth from one perspective. And of course, it's a lie. But it is true. The Fed is the only government. It runs the military. It runs the entire country. The private bankers that took over 97 years ago in 1913. So we have that here. Here's another one. Government expanding like a cancer, says Mark Faber. Well, that's how I always describe it. Well, see, they're globalists. They will evacuate the country after they've sucked it dry and broke it down. Government expanding like a cancer, Mark Faber says. Governments have intervened too much in the free market since the crisis started, to the point that they are affecting the health of the world economy. Mark Faber, the author of the Gloom, Boom, Doom Report, told CNBC. And, of course, he's predicted all of what's happening and is a frequent guest of this transmission. Let's go ahead and go back to your calls. Thanks for holding. Ernie, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex. Hey, one thing about your last caller talking about, the people I feel bad about is people who never farm, don't know how to pluck a chicken, don't know how to skin it. Those are the people that are in trouble. Okay, the two things I want to talk about, Blagojevich is right on. I think he did a good CYA job, bring them all down. The other two things that bother me, we got a president, we got a crack in the ocean with an oil well, and he sits there and looks at the American people and says, we got to tax you. The other thing that bothered me was watching a congressman assault two kids on the street. They spin and flip it, and then in South Carolina, they elect another guy to go for Congress who can't even speak English. This guy Green, and it was like you're talking something. This is just all bizarre.
Well, sir, in a New York City, I have the AP article, and as I read this Wednesday, I couldn't believe it. I haven't even gotten to it. That the feds came into the town, and it turns out they've done it in hundreds of towns, and said, we think one man, one vote is racist, so we're going to give 6 votes to certain people to get illegal aliens elected, and they admit that it's illegal aliens voting, and the feds say they deserve to vote. I mean, you cannot make up stuff this insane. This is a criminal government. Again, I'm not against the illegal aliens, folks, but the government has brought them in as a political weapon to displace the American people and to vote for the robbery against the people. And, I mean, it's treason. We have a treasonous government. And to watch that senator beat up some college students, literally punch their camera, grab them, the young men are polite the entire time, and then I've got the MSNBC Chris Matthews piece and other shows saying, how dare them attack the senator. But that's the way it works now. Cops attack you, you get charged with attacking them. Even if there's video of the cops hitting you, you don't touch them. They show it to a jury, and they say, police are God. And the jury says, police are God, and you go to prison. And now if a senator beats you, rapes your wife, they will say your wife raped them. I mean, and I'm not being sarcastic about that. Government is God in a tyranny. And good points, Ernie. Wayne, David, Truth Master Mark, I'm going to go to you quickly on the other side. There's so much news coming up. I want to get into all these professors and government officials talking about the end of the world and NASA saying, you know, the sun could kill us and all this hype and humanity will be extinct. They're hyping it.
Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Oh, Lord, my trouble so high.
We're going live at prisonplanet.tv in T-minus 6 minutes as we start the next hour. Let's go to Wayne in Canada. Wayne, thanks for holding her on the air.
Thanks for taking my call, Alex. I appreciate everything you do. I want to thank you for it. I want to move quickly. I want to ask you to, or make a suggestion that your listeners search Edward Mandell House and what he has to say. It's very informative and interesting to see what he had to say.
Yeah, House Park here in Austin. He was from Austin. He was the handler of Woodrow Wilson. Openly said we're going to have a new British Empire, a planetary government, and bankrupt the American people through taxation. And he wrote books about it, bragging about how they destroy America, and now they've done it.
Yes, and if you just Google Edward Mandell House has to say, or any search engine, it's a really brief read, and it'll tell you how forever to remain economic slaves. This applies to the world, not only to the United States. We're all corporations. If you could Google that, maybe you could read it. And my second point is, I wanna go to the Bilderberg meeting of this year in June of 2000 and the list of it, and ask the people in the Corporation of British Columbia to go to that list and see down in the 17th name of that list is Gordon Campbell, Premier of British Columbia. And I ask all people within the corporation of the province of British Columbia to go to their local MLAs and ask what our so-called elected representative Gordon Campbell was doing at this Bilderberg meeting, and what good for the people, of the people, elected by the people, he was acquiring at this meeting.
Well, it's just like most of your past prime ministers. He's being vetted to be prime minister in the future, just like Tony Blair, just like Barack Obama, just like Bill Clinton, just like George Bush Sr., just like the governor of Texas, Rick Perry. You know, they've got different political affiliations, different political coloration, but they're all New World Order criminal trash. I appreciate your call, Wayne. I really do. Good points that you made. Of course, don't forget in Canada, this year and 2 years before that, your parliament tried to actually be a parliament and tried to actually cut taxes, and the Queen exercised her Governor General's veto and disbanded the authority of the parliament, just like it's happened in Australia. You run absolutely nothing, and we run nothing here. Our Congress is ceremonial to the Federal Reserve, and the Congress is trying to become effective again and audit the Fed, and so the Fed threatens financial terror and plunge the market 1,000 points that day. We're going to go to break here and come back with David, Truth Master, Mark, Scott, and others, and then after, actually, I'll go to Scott first. He disagrees. We'll see if it's like all the other people that disagree, though. I think you're a great patriot, but I'd really love to hear somebody that actually disagreed, but had real meat and potatoes. In fact, if you really do disagree, 1-800-259-9231. And I'm going to go through the news as well. We do have two guests coming up. Lindsey Williams in the last hour today. People want to hear a part 2 interview, and they say he was on Coast to Coast after he was here and talked about people wouldn't believe it if they knew who controlled our military, according to his oil company connections, that I know are real. And so we'll get him to flesh that out with us coming up in the last hour today. You want him, you got him.